Hey Brad, what's up?
I am the host. Thank you for that fine introduction, Scott. Welcome everybody. It's like Groundhog Day again. It's Wednesday. It's your Wednesday Q&A session. I apologize in advance, guys. I have to cut this one a little bit short today, so about 30 to 40 minutes is about as long as we can go. So as a result of that, why don't we kind of like switch it around a little bit? And if you guys have any pressing questions, I'll be more than happy to address those at the front. Otherwise, I'll just kind of give a little product demonstration, go through what we've been doing with our technology, how it can help you. And again, this is our Q&A, so it's truly interactive. Please, provide some questions here and give me some direction from which to go. Otherwise, I'll just kind of be like a drone and ramble on and kind of talk about our tech. So let's just kind of start right there then. So I'll be looking over at the questions if you guys want to fire any through there. But let's just start off by our disclaimer. Guys, we are not a registered investment advisor. The stocks that I'm going to talk about today, please don't construe those as investment advice. These are ideas, and I'm just talking about our technology. We are a technology provider, an idea generation piece of technology that sits alongside your brokerage operation. Not even going to really get into the slides here. I'm going to go right into the software and talk a little bit about it. You're gonna hold on one second here. Yeah, so no, Stephen, we don't have a 1-minute MACD setting. We just have a couple of different filters as it pertains to that. I'll show you those a little bit later. You've probably gone into the configuration and the search, and you can type that, and I'll show you guys how to get to that, but we don't have that specific filter. We do have the 1-minute RSI, however, and we'll go through it. So let's just get rid of the presentation, get right into the software. Like I said, we're an idea generation piece of technology. We sit alongside your brokerage provider, your brokerage order entry interface, and provide ideas through the trading day. And it really depends on your trading style, how you're going to utilize trade ideas, whether it's in a short-term momentum type of trading style, or whether it's a longer-term style where you're going to hold the positions longer, but you're just looking for a very good entry on it. You're looking for some type of market action that gives you the impetus to get into it. So no matter how you trade and how you interact in the market, this is the kind of tool that can assist you. It's your trading assistant. It's like 1,000 pairs of eyes, if you will. Sitting there throughout the trading day, just listening for different events to occur. And depending upon how you have this software configured or which channel you happen to be looking at, it's going to deliver these ideas directly to you. And it's going to do it in a couple of different ways. It's going to do it through a variety of different window interfaces that we have, whether it's an alert window, a top list window. These are all different ways to ingest our data. And our data can be pretty standard market data, like what stocks are up the most today or what stocks are down the most, but it can get really specific too, and it can get very unique to trade ideas. Maybe what's been up the most over the last 5 minutes, what's up over the last 5 minutes that's down the most for the day. These are the kinds of ways that you can use the very interesting custom filters that we have to paint a variety of different scenarios from which to be alerted to or identify in real time. It's also a tool that you can use aftermarket and use it as a kind of a scanning or research tool, utilizing our charting, utilizing the annotations that you can put on that, and then the price alerts that you can set to identify different moves that cross your thresholds that you've set on the software. We've been doing this for about 17 years, so the software is very, very complex. I mean, you can do so many different things with it, but it can also be pretty simple. We've set up the channel bar, which I'm showing over on the left-hand side, which is like we kind of liken it to a remote control to the market. So we've set up all these different channels. You can think of it like your Netflix channel lineup. These different channels have different themes attached to it, maybe different symbol universes that it's looking at, or a combination of the two. So these are already set up workspaces that are already pre-configured. And as a user of trade ideas, you can kind of hit the ground running utilizing that channel bar and those different window setups. You can then modify the setups to kind of really look at the type of setup that you want to look at. Maybe you only want to trade low volume stocks or high volume stocks, or stocks within a certain price range, or stocks that are within a certain proximity to a 200 period moving average. I mean, these are all the types of things that you can set up. And you don't have to just set up one idea. You can use our tools, and I don't think I mentioned the multi-strategy window, which is like an alert window, but you can have a variety of different strategies embedded in there. So maybe you've got one that's looking at climactic down moves. Maybe you've got a strategy looking for breakouts. Maybe you've got a strategy looking for high market cap movers for the day. All done through a single window with just different strategies embedded in it. Let me take a breath here. So yeah, do I have an indicator, the whole MACD? So the MACDs that we have here, and let me just pull it up here through the alert window, since MACD was talked about a couple times here. So if I open up the configuration window and I go to search and I type in MACD, this is going to identify the different alerts or filters that we have. In this case, I think I said filters, but these are alerts that we have on a variety of different time frames, crossing different thresholds. And through this, you have the ability to set up these various alerts, but we don't have the filters, which would allow you to get a little bit more customizable with it. But if you want to implement an MACD algorithm, you can do it through this mechanism right here. Because it is an alert, it's not going to appear as something that you can do inside of a top list window. So if I go over to configure on a top list, let me just set it up to advanced all the time, and I type in MACD, nothing's going to show up because it's an alert, it's an event, something's got to happen for that notification to appear in your window. And that's a lot different than our top list windows. The top list window is essentially a ranked list of stocks that's updating every 30 seconds and gives you two different sort criteria and the ability to do some color assisted customization to it as well. So for instance, you can bring into a top list window the biggest gainers for the day. So you've got a list of stocks that are all over 4% gainers for the day, and then you can bring in some additional filters. Well, now let me sort it on the position and range, a graphical indicator of where that stock is currently trading in relationship to its high and its low. So a lot of times with our data, you don't even need to pull it up on a chart to know that this stock right here is trading towards its high of the day at the end of the day. And that's where it closed right here. The little purple is our post-market trading, so it's down a little bit, but you can see that at the time of this signal right here, it's pretty close to the high of the day. Same thing, you know, with this is custom data that we really make on the fly. So we're bringing in the high and the low, and we know where the last is. So this is something that's very specific to the Trade Ideas filter set, but we do it on a variety of different time frames. So if we're looking at, you know, this is looking at the day, but I have another filter right next to it, another column data set, which is looking at the 20-day range. So now I can see, okay, really quickly without pulling it up on a chart, what stock is doing the best in relationship to its 20-day. So I can bring that up. I don't know why anything's coming up here. And you can see here on the daily chart, you know, super strong. On the position of the range for the day, however, it's a little lower than its midpoint. So you can see the midpoint's right about here, and this is where it closed. So we're giving you this data to be able to make some really quick assessments, to be able to sort on it, but then you can also use it to filter. So for instance, maybe in this list right here, I only want to see stocks that happen to be in their upper 25% of the day range. So you can take that, go into configure, so take something that we already built, go into it, and now let's go position in day range. I'm going to select that, I'm going to add the filter, and now I'm just going to go ahead and say the minimum value has to be 75. So now it's only going to show me stocks in the upper 25 percentile. And you can see here that my list got a little bit smaller, and now I'm only able to look at the stocks that I really want to look at. These graphical indicators right here, they actually all have a value associated. So if you're hovering over it, you can see the value through a tooltip, but I could also go into properties and take off the graphical indicator and just look at that value right there. So just kind of tying it all together, the way the alerts and the filters work together. So Mia, you don't see the omni-channel. I'm curious, are you using the web version perhaps? That's something that we're working on right now, incorporating it into the web version. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that as I go through the AI and talk about how that can help you in your trading and some ways that you can manipulate that data. So some of the other channels, I really like the Alpha Predator channel. You know, when the market slows down and there's not a whole lot going on, or I'm not kind of managing my portfolio or setting stops in, this is a channel that I really like navigating to, because no matter what's happening in the day, even a day like today where the market was, you know, pretty weak and a lot of things were running down, you always have the ability to find these outliers, these guys that are earning alpha over and above what's happening in the marketplace. So this is always a pretty cool channel to look at. A lot of times they're cheaper stocks, they're not the expensive stocks, and oftentimes they also have some lower float, and they don't really necessarily adhere to what's happening with the broader market, like the S&P or the comp or something like that. So it's a really good channel. Another one that I like, and you can just kind of peruse them all, social media is a nice one because it's like a volume channel. It's just another way to look at volume. This just happens to be social volume. When people start to talk about it on social media, it's really like they're starting to trade it. You know, it's starting to be noticed. Volume is starting to associatively pick up, and it's just another way to look at that metric. And we do something really interesting with the social volume. We're keeping track of it. We're connected to StockTwits, so we're getting all of the social tweets in real time. We know what's normal. And so one of the things that we do with market data that's pretty special is we create statistical baselines on absolutely every single security out there on every time frame that we're looking at. So we know what's normal behavior for every stock all the time. That allows us to be able to alert and identify moves and actions that are happening kind of out of the norm. And specific to social data, that's what we're doing here, is we're taking a look at social data, and we've got this relative activity column. And this is essentially really kind of looking at comparing the current social communication volume going through the stock and comparing it to normal. So when something starts to trigger at 37,000 times its normal volume, things are starting to happen with it. And you can see here, this would have been lighting up very early in the day as well. And just a huge volume day from, you know, stock volume, but it correlates. You know, that's a tremendous correlation between that and the social activity. But if you don't want to kind of take the tangent and look at social activity, if you drill down to the bottom of these channels, I've got one called volume, and this is taking a look at just specific volume parameters. And it's a good indication. It shows you how we break down volume with respect to a stock. And we're looking at it, like I said, on all different time frames. And here, this is kind of a short-term volume alerting mechanism, or top list, if you will, but it's really looking at kind of shorter-term volume spikes. So whether it's a 5-minute volume spike doing 3,000% of its normal volume over a 5-minute type of candle perspective, or over 30 minutes doing, you know, that type, correlates to the relative volume. You know, if I was to bring in, well, let's click on it here, and do I have StockTwits relative activity? I do. And so again, it's doing 6,800% of its normal social talking. So a direct correlation to it, just another way to look at it, but it's keeping that normal market data and seeing exactly when something crazy starts to happen. Relative volume is another one of those examples, probably my favorite filter in the software, because, you know, like I said, it's looking at volume at the specific time of day, and it's giving you a ratio. So there's really not much, something easier to digest than a ratio. 2.31. Well, it's trading at the end of the day here, 2.31 times its normal volume. When something like this is happening in midday or the beginning of the day, you know, it's starting to give you that indication that something's lighting up here. And so if I come to this chart right here, let me bring in volume, so we can look at the volume bars. Let me make the time frame a little bit bigger, like 15 minutes. So now you can see on a graphical basis what that relative volume really looks like, what an 11 times relative volume looks like. Well, it started here at the market open, pretty strong from a volume perspective, but it really started picking up. Now, these are 15-minute volume candles, but it gave you ample opportunity to participate in this move. But guys, trading is not easy, and it really all depends on what your time frame is, what your resilience is to being in a position, and how long you want to hold it. And I say resilience because, you know, look at a trade like this that over the course of 30 minutes, 45 minutes runs up just a tremendous percentage, right? But if you stay in that, look at the pain that you have to feel if you want to stay in it and treat it as a swing opportunity. So, you know, there are a lot of different ways to win at trading, but there are also a lot of different ways to lose at trading. This is no holy grail. This is no, you know, magic way to make money in the market, but this is a legitimate tool that can assist you in doing so. And I think most people that have an opportunity to use it and to get comfortable with it and understand its capabilities really have a hard time working in the marketplace without it. Sure, you can pick a symbol and get master that particular symbol, but it's not going to give you something every day, and mastering something like that is really very difficult. Oftentimes it's a lot easier to let these moves come to you, and so when something's happening, let it be identified, pull it up, and then as your experience starts to mature, you're able to make that very instantaneous trading decision. So let me move over here to see if there are any questions here. Now, relative volume, Stephen, does not mean how many people are looking at the stock. Relative volume specifically is looking at the prints of the stock, people that are actually trading and transacting. So the volume, the total volume of the stock. So in sum total today, this stock NLS right here had a volume of 4.2 million shares traded. Well, that's 11 times its normal activity. So, you know, you take that 4.2 million divided by 11, and that's roughly what your average volume typically is. But not today. And like if I bring in that volume indication here, just hit OK, you know, just look at that volume bar today. You know, it had another one back here, not much happened, but certainly this volume was really something that really did cause this stock to move. And volume is a tremendous catalyst. It can get you in trouble, or it can be your savior. But you know, when volume is really kicking in a stock, the volatility typically goes up. And so, for instance, volatility, that's something that I have. Let me just add the column here because I can explain it a little bit better if we're looking at some of the data. So I'll bring in volatility. I'll just bring in the dollar value of it, and I'm going to show the column, hit OK. I'll just make it a little bit bigger here. But essentially what this data point is telling us is, on average, this is the distance that a stock will move over a 15-minute period of time. So it's giving you the volatility of that stock. Now, this is a historical data point. That means it's not going to change today. No matter what happens today, this is a historical data point. So I can see here exactly what's happening on average. And then today I can pull it up on a chart and look at my 15-minute range and go, oh, wow, this thing moved 40 cents over this period of time here, or 30 cents over that. So a tremendous difference than what we're looking at here. So volume equates tremendously to volatility. All right, so let's kind of move on through here. I like the surge channel as well. The surge channel is one that looks at volume, it looks at momentum. It also has a little sneaky window in the bottom left here. It's configured a lot differently than our other alert windows. Typically our alert windows, what they do is they're chronological in order. So when an event occurs, it's going to appear at the top. So you can always see when was the last event that occurred. Well, this is different because this is kind of giving me a special sort on my count here. So during the market, when things are happening, this thing, well here, I can show you here real quick. I don't want to run out of too much time, but let's go into the alert window. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a post-market high. So let's go back here and let's start from scratch. Post-market high. So I don't know, it's still a little bit late in the day and maybe nothing's going to be happening, but if I just add that alert and then a couple columns here, the count, because I want to sort on it. I don't really need anything else, so let's just hit OK. Okay, so, well, there was something that just happened. So, okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and double click on this count column. Double click on the count column. It's going to bring up this group and sort by. Another way to get there, I can right click here, go to properties, and then go to view mode, group and sort. A little bit easier just to click on the top. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and keep the newest. We're going to do count, and we're going to do it in descending mode. So let's see what happens here. Now, anytime there's a new post-market high, it's going to come into this window, but the ranking order is going to be based on the count. So as the market's going, the cream really kind of rises to the top here. So you're going to see the different items that have the most counts up at the top. So a great momentum window. So we had all of these update. So you can kind of bring it in and take a look. And that's our post-market print that we had. Ideally, you'd like to see more volume. This isn't anything you really want to do at this time, but knowing that this is another way to look at the data is pretty interesting. Also, when you do so this one's kind of, rising to the top here amongst the others. But, not a lot of volume cooking through it, so. Yeah, so for opening gaps, James is asking a question, is there a search for opening gaps with high volume? So there are a couple ways to do it. Let's go to our pre-market channel, little coffee cup. All right, and so now what we're looking at is a top list window with gaps. And we can set this up in a couple of different ways. And I know that you said the operative thing was volume. And there are a couple different ways you can do it. You can set it up so that, I don't know, maybe it might be better to do it right here in like a mover. And so we already have it really set up in this pre-market movers window. It's a multi-strategy window. There are only a few strategies set up into it, but I've got this high relative volume. So let's go into that particular, let's open it up as an alert window so we can kind of dive into it and see exactly what's going on. Let's go into configure. So now what we want to do, if I look at this, I can tell here I'm looking for some high volume, something that's happening high volume. I'm making sure it's pre-market. And what do we have here? The volume today is trading 10,000 shares. So a couple of things that I'd want to do with this. I'd want to make sure that there's a gap in there. So what I can do is I can come over here and type in gap, set my filter up. And so if maybe I want to see a minimum gap of 3%. So we'll just set the minimum gap here for 3%. Now, anytime this high relative volume alert is going to be triggering, it's going to have high volume running through it relative to its normal type of volume, and it's going to have at least a 3% gap. That's one way to do it. There are other ways you can do it as well. You can do it here in this top list window. Relative volume doesn't work pre-market, so that's important to know. Don't try to set up any relative volume filters pre-market, but we do have a really good volume filter. So if I go to type in volume, it's going to show you all the different volume filters that we have here. And if I go to volume today, percentage. So that's a little sneaky one right there, because during the pre-market, that one is functioning, and what you can start to see with this particular filter, and you can set up the filter as well, but what you can see with the filter is really how it's trading, what kind of volume it's doing in relationship to its typical volume. So it's not a relative volume filter, it's a different metric, but it does work pre-market. So Alpha Predator, I did mention that one earlier. The Alpha Predator is a great channel. It's typically looking at lower float stocks, but it's looking for stocks that are bucking the trend. Not really bucking the trend if the market's up and running, but these are stocks that happen to be moving in a bullish mentality regardless of what's happening in the broader market. So let me touch on a couple things before I go. This right here, well, before I bring in Brokerage Plus, let me talk a little bit about the AI. I'll bring in our new AI channel here. This is our consolidated Omni AI. One-to-one, you can see how each individual Holly did. If we go into Holly 2.0 and just drill into that channel, this had a very successful day today, and we can see exactly what happened. During the market hours, this window right here is going to be showing the positions that are open, the ideas that are open right now. This bottom window, when the position is closed out, it'll appear down in this particular area here. We keep track of 3 different profitability characteristics within these different segments, and it happens to be risk off, which is adhering to a time frame. When you do a back test, a back test is hypothesizing how you would do if you perform the same set of instructions on a strategy every time. And in doing that back test, there's always a time component to it. Like, I want to run this back test for, I want to hold the position for an hour, or I want to hold it to the end of the day, or I want to hold it for 45 minutes. Those hypotheses that you put in is something that gets tested. And that's when the position gets exited at that time horizon, that's what we call a risk off trade. That means you decided to get out when the software suggested to get out based upon the optimization, the back testing optimization that was done. The next profitability mode is risk on, and that's essentially saying, I want to hold this position until the end of the day, or I want to try to hold it anyway, but if I get stopped out, I'm going to get out of it and I'm not going to look back at it. That's keeping track of that profitability. So if I go to risk on, we lost 40 cents today in the AI, and that's basically trading one share for each one of these. How would it have done? Full risk is essentially holding it to the end of the day. So you can see here in full risk, you know, these strategies were very profitable, but when you look at the market and what happened throughout the day and the way the market trended down and really broke down and then, you know, just kind of really continued to move down in that direction, the profitability of these positions eroded, which was in this particular segment, these were all long trades. And in sum total, there were 7 trades total. And so it ended up in full risk mode, basically not looking at any stops. That means I'm not going to get out of anything, even if it breaches through the stop. How would I have done? And we provide these so that you see how the market's doing. You know, what's the best way to approach it? Does the market exhibiting a lot of follow through, or is it really just kind of short term in nature? Are these moves kind of short lived and not exhibiting a lot of follow through? And that's what these different profitability modes dictate. But the strategies, I'll briefly talk about how the strategies appear here during the day. There's essentially a combine that takes place at the end of every day. At the end of every day, each one of our 50 plus strategies gets optimized. It basically goes through the optimization process, looks at what happened today, which filters it should apply to it, which filters it should change, remove, what modifications it should make. It doesn't make too many, but it does look at every strategy and it makes some suggestions and then runs the back test again. And at the end of all that, it has certain metrics. It has certain profit factor, sum total of all the winning trades over the losing trades. It has an average winner to loser ratio. It has a maximum winner, maximum loser. It has all these data points that then get refined and what we say running through the combine. So only the best of the best will appear the next day. So today, in this particular segment, Holly 2.0, we had these 4 different strategies, and each one traded a little bit differently. These 2 strategies had 1 trade, and this one had 2, this had 3. So these different ideas were presented to you in real time throughout the day. And you can use it as just an idea. You can use it as just a gauge on how the market is performing, or you can even automate it. And that's one of the things that I was going to show you here with Brokerage Plus. It's something that you can automate. It's something that you can either also just decide you want to participate in. So for instance, as I right click on this particular Holly trade idea right here, I have this trade option, and based upon how I have it set up inside of my Brokerage Plus, I have these different options right here to be able to follow along and to be able to send these orders right to the market. So this is a little bit of a, not an automated way of doing it, but kind of a one-click way of analyzing it, making a decision, and sending it to market. By the way, you need to have interactive brokers at this point for this to work like this. Brokerage Plus currently only connects with interactive brokers, although we do have plans of broadening that. We're actually in talks with a couple different brokers right now at broadening this particular venue and destination list. So this right here is a manual way to approach it. If I want to go in here and bring in my Brokerage Plus, I could go to the Holly tab here, and I could, this is integrated with the AI, and I could set up my instructions for these different strategies, the long strategies. How do I want to approach it? Do I want to approach it? Which risk mode do I want to approach it in? How much do I want to commit to each trade? How do I want to enter into it? A limit, a market, a limit delta? Do I want to be aggressive or do I not want to be aggressive? How long do I want to have the order out there? So these are the trading parameters that you would make. And then from there, you just turn it on and you kind of let it run. Today wasn't a great day overall in sum total. It wasn't a bad day, but the market wasn't tremendously accommodating. You know, if you go to the Omni AI, this particular view right here will aggregate it all, and you can see exactly how we did in these different modes, the different risk modes, but also from a percentage basis. Like this right here is just keeping track of the values here based on a penny a share. Now I could go through here. No, I'm not sorry, not a penny a share, 1 share per trade here. But I could come into my tools, options, and I could come into my AI trade size. And now to bring some more correlation to my Brokerage Plus, if I wanted to automate this, and now I want to say, okay, well, how would I have done had I traded this, let's say with, I don't know, let's do $5,000 per trade. So now, depending on the price of the stock, I'm going to be trading a different share quantity with each one of those. But now I can see here that in risk-off mode, I would have, you know, made a tiny bit of money after commissions. So that wasn't really a great move on it right here. But certainly, these other risk modes are telling you that these would have been short-term opportunities for the most part. Holding these to the end of the day would essentially been like holding the spiders, you know, as they're tanking down. So just kind of giving you that view. And if you wanted to move to it, you could get that graphical representation as how you would have done through the day. You know, starting off, it was a little, you're up 100, down 100, up 160, down 90, and then it broke out a little bit, up 400. But from there, you know, just holding it without taking any profits, you know, it's not a black and white game. It's not, okay, get out at risk off or get out at the end of the day. That's not really what trading is. I mean, we're giving you metrics here to be able to see how the market is progressing through the day, but you know, there's market activity, the breadth of a market, the way a market breathes, it's in and out, up and down, and that's just the way profitability works as well. So you cannot, Jean-Pierre, you cannot modify the Holly strategies through the code. The Holly strategies are really obfuscated. And the reason is that the strategies like Bond Shorty right here that delivered the short and pump today, that strategy is going to move through the optimization routine tomorrow, or today, right now, rather, after market. And it's going to look through today's activity. It's going to look at the filter sets that are assigned to that, and it's going to make a decision. You know, maybe the minimum change from the close needs to be changed a little bit or something. That was pretty basic and not realistic, but maybe one of these parameters needs to be changed, and it'll do that. So by giving the strategies to people, it's not a great idea because it's oftentimes going to change. So we just found this to be a much better way. The difference between the two short squeezes. I'm not sure what you mean by that. That's right, Mike. I got a few of them here. So so can events in TI trigger actions in other software like NinjaTrader? Well, I'll tell you, potentially. We do have something called the external linking connector. Let me bring in, and guys, I have about 6 more minutes here. I'm going to bring in Realtek, just another third-party application. You consider it like Ninja or anything else, right? So pop this in here. All right, so now it's opened up here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to, and I guess it'll depend on the other platform and what you can do. But if I go to external linking connector, and it's been a while since I've done this because I don't really utilize it like this, but let's add link. And let's go to Realtek, see if that works. Yeah, so in a scenario like this, and this could be linked to an order entry panel, it could be linked to Excel, and you could have any type of programs where it's linked, and then when you click on a symbol here, it'll go ahead and update that. I also have something else. If you go to an alert window, I thought I changed that. All right, if you go to an alert window, and we've got this alert logging enabled option. This is something that if you have it selected, it'll automatically dump the contents of this window in real time. So as the window is thinking and listening and a new event comes in, it'll dump those events into an Excel spreadsheet. And a lot of times you can use if then that software to do other things with it. So there are ways to maneuver it and do things. So there's no, well, I mean, there is a scripting API. I wouldn't say that there's not. We don't offer an open API so that you can write custom code to our software data. But if you do go to our website, and you go to help, and let's go to account management, and we've got this custom formulas. If you go to help right here, I'll open it in a new tab. This is a I guess it's grown to 10 pages now, but a 10-pager talking about our variables that we have that you can manipulate. So you can essentially create custom filters for yourself based on the market data or the data points that we have right now in the software. So for instance, let me make sure what account I'm on. So if I go to configure here, I've got a bunch of them already set up. If I go to search and I go all the way to the bottom, all these guys that start with U, these are all custom filters that I've made that allow me to do different things with the software. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's what you're talking about, but that is pretty cool, and you definitely want to look at that help page. It's not in-depth programming, but it's a little bit. Pretty simple stuff, though. So if I go, let me go to the short squeeze channel and see here. I'm sure I passed it. All right, so I see different columns here. If we go into it and we go to configure, hide unused, let's take a look. I'll just grab this right here. All right, so, different filter sets involved here. The sort order, we're sorting here, we're bringing in high relative volume leaders here, where if I come into this one and I look at the server sort, I'm looking at today's range. So that would probably be aside from a few filters, the contents of this top list right here, that's no pun intended, the short squeeze upper top list is looking at stocks that have a very big range for the day. That means the distance between their low and their high is much bigger than normal. Another one of the metrics that we're keeping track of here, today's range. So a normal range would be 100%. 200% is telling you that this stock here today had a range 2 times or roughly 2 times its normal range. And you can see graphically it's roughly twice what these other little guys are looking like. Not the candle body, but the literal distance between its high and its low. And some different columns, different sort orders, different client sort orders. So there's different sort orders, as I was mentioning, from the server side, but then there's a client side sort order. That means how am I going to sort it on my desktop? How am I going to look at this data in what order? And that would be, double clicking on one of these columns right here. That doesn't change the fact that this list right here, the contents are made up of guys that have big ranges for the day, whereas the contents of this one here has high relative volume. So no modifying the parameters of the different AIs. It's simply deciding whether you want to participate with the idea or not. All right, guys, I'm going to pop back in the present. I apologize. It was cut a little bit short here today. You can always send us questions to info@TradeIdeas. We do webinars during the day, so more interactive. They're generally a little bit smaller in nature, and people with questions specifically, we're going through that, opening up the software and trying to show you how to configure things like that. So let's bring this back in. Guys, we are a software as a service. We charge on a monthly basis. We do offer discounts for annual prepay. This is our per diem cost, the cost of a cup of coffee or a lunch. If you are participating in the market, it really is a small price to pay for the technology that you get. We do offer a discount, Summer of AI, 15% off your monthly, or if you decide you want to do a prepayment, take 15% off of that. We have a trading room. Barry Anderson is our moderator. You guys should check it out. You can get there from our homepage. It is free of charge, so it won't cost you anything, but it's a great opportunity to see how real traders are using our tech, making real calls. Something that you should all take a look at. It might not be for everybody, but certainly worth spending a little bit of time there. We do a podcast every Friday. It's not your standard state-of-the-art podcast. It's a little bit on edge. So if you're looking for a little bit of some edgier material, not the standard dry webinars, then this is something you may want to tune into. Dan and Jamie are usually doing it. It is very entertaining, to say the least. And I understand I have a new book to read. I guess we have a new ebook that we're offering out. The Setup series offers insights into custom strategies built by Trade Ideas professionals. So that's pretty awesome. You can get there from going to trade-ideas.com/setup. Guys, you can reach us via Twitter, Trade Ideas, QuantBot, Today Trader. Those are some good Twitter handles to get to us, as well as Facebook, our phone number, but really the best way to communicate with us from a technical perspective is going to be through our email, info@trade-ideas.com. Scott, did I miss anything?
I think you got everything. We're going to have the recording up later on tonight or tomorrow. Make sure you guys get those new ebooks, and see you all in the next webinar.
Hey, Scott, when is our test drive coming out? We do have a question here about
in early August, August 12th. So people should start seeing announcements about that either mid next week or late next week.
Yeah, so Jean-Pierre, we don't offer free trials, but every quarter we do offer a test drive of our software, the full premium soup to nuts offering. It's $8.88, I think, which covers the exchange fees. But if you want to take a look at the software or take a look at some of the premium functionality, that's the best time to do it. And another reason is we've got a full support staff and all kinds of webinars during that week to really help people and assist people with the software. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you. Have a good one.